Do you view Hamas as a terrorist organization?
Why is Israel killing Christians?
Yeah.
Who fund it? Americans fund Israel.
I want to work out, do you actually think then that Hamas are terrorists or not?
Buddy.
Does that include Israel?
It includes anybody.
No, but
anybody. But by the way, let me just say, it's so funny. Does that include Israel?
President Trump told reporters at the time that you had called him and apologized after you disagreed with the Israeli strikes on Iran. Is that true?
What you're about to watch is a moment where two completely opposite visions of America clash head to head. In this explosive exchange, Tucker Carlson doesn't just push back on Piers Morgan's questions, he exposes the entire system that decides what Americans are allowed to think and say. From challenging who really controls U.S. foreign policy to forcing Piers Morgan to confront the uncomfortable truth about Christians being targeted with American tax dollars, Tucker Carlson refuses to flinch even as Piers Morgan reaches for every label in the book. This conversation goes places the mainstream media never wants you to go. Make sure you watch until the end because this gets very intense. Now let's get into it.
Anti-Semite, obviously. I'm not even anti-Israel on some principled level. I'm an American, and I think it's not only fair, but my moral obligation to find out what the hell was this. And you're calling me names is not going to stop me because I've been here my whole life, and my family's been here a long time. I don't have to take orders from you about what I'm allowed to know or not know because it's my country. That's the kind of democratic spirit that informed this country my entire life until 9/11, after which it became a thought crime to ask obvious questions. And I'm just not going to play along, period.
Where do you think we are, Tucker, with the various things that have happened since you and I last spoke in Riyadh, actually, for a really interesting double-header chat? But in particular, what happened with Iran, where Donald Trump decided to attack Iran. What did you feel about that? Given that it ended so apparently quickly, do you think Trump was vindicated in his short, sharp strategy there by bombing Iran? Or do you think that this will come back and haunt him down the line?
Well, of course, I can't say. I mean, my life is a kind of unbroken chain of bad predictions and embarrassing analysis. And I've been wrong so many times, and I will be in the future without question. However, it's just a fact that, events have consequences that we can't foresee, often for years or generations. And I think it's very unwise to use military force without a clear, achievable objective that serves the American national interest. In fact, it's not allowed to use it under any other circumstances. And in that case, I was concerned and remain concerned that this focus on Iran is not actually connected to our national security. How many Shiite terror attacks have there been in the United States in my lifetime? Let me do the math, 0. So don't tell me that the greatest threat we face is Iran. That's a lie. You're telling it on behalf of a foreign power. Maybe they feel the greatest threat they face is Iran. It's not the greatest threat we face. It's not an endorsement of Iran, okay? Doesn't make me a simp for the Shiites. It just makes me an American who's trying to think clearly about what our problems are. And our problems would include tens of millions of foreign nationals living illegally in my country. Nobody knows their identities. They would include a collapsing economy that makes it very hard for my children to have children and live the life that they grew up with and their friends and all American kids. It would include a drug crisis that's killed millions of Americans over the past 20 millions of Americans over the last 20 years. Iran is not even in the top 10 list. So you can scream at me all you want and call me names and call me a bigot or whatever, but there's no evidence to support that. And so if the energy of the US government is focused on a threat that's not the primary threat to us, it is by definition ignoring threats that are. And that's a kind of negligence. And so I pointed that out. I was, roundly attacked. My family was attacked. Whatever. I don't care. It's true. And everyone kind of knows it's true. And being bullied by Ben Shapiro into pretending that it's not true, it's just not on the program for me at 56. I'm just not doing that anymore.
President Trump told reporters at the time that you had called him and apologized after you disagreed with the Israeli strikes on Iran. Is that true?
What just happened here is bigger than most people realize. While Piers Morgan is completely focused on Iran, Tucker Carlson just forced the entire conversation back to reality. The reality that no attack from that region has ever touched American soil in Tucker's lifetime. The reality that millions of Americans are struggling with a collapsing economy, an open border, and a crisis that has torn apart entire communities across the country. Tucker Carlson didn't just win that argument. He exposed the massive gap between what the political class wants Americans to focus on and what is actually impacting their lives every single day. And when Piers Morgan tried to shift the subject with a Trump apology story, it only made him look smaller. This is what happens when someone refuses to be controlled by foreign narratives and establishment pressure. The old playbook of labels and character attacks is simply not working anymore. Keep watching because Tucker Carlson is just getting started.
I am a champion apologizer. I really believe in apologies. I have a lot to apologize for. I always have. We all do. I certainly do. But I also think that, you shouldn't proffer a false apology. You should apologize for things that you did wrong, and I didn't do anything wrong there. And I wasn't attacking anybody. I wasn't attacking Israel. I wasn't attacking.
You said that Hamas is more like a political organization than a terror group. That was on the new episode of your show when you were talking.
I didn't say that.
So when you said there, Tucker, that you said in passing there, you weren't making a different point, but you did say in passing there, they seem more like a political organization. What did you mean by that?
No, I said you can't claim. First of all, the core of it is, why is Israel killing Christians?
Yeah.
Who fund it? Americans fund Israel, fund the IDF. None of this would be possible without the United States and Christians in the United States. So they don't get to go kill Christians. They don't get to block access to Christian holy sites. They don't get to allow people to spit on Christian clergy, and they definitely don't get permission from the country that funds them to blow up churches or Christian hospitals. And yet they have a lot. So what the hell is that? And that's my point. And in response, and I've asked that not as a hater of Israel, but as a Christian. So I've asked that pretty persistently for the last few years. I've really been attacked for it, but so what? And the response is, well, they're not actually, they're in Hamas. And so my question is, well, you're telling me simultaneously that Hamas is a religious group, they're Islamic extremists, but they also have Christian members? Like, how does that work? It doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah. We can't complain about a government that we fund killing Christians. I don't know who's writing the rules here, but I'm not obeying them. I'm not attacking Israel. I'm not an anti-Semite. You don't get to kill Christians who have nothing to do with this. It's the
you definitely say
it's the only point I'm making.
You definitely said in passing that they seem more like a political organization. So do you want to clarify what you meant by that bit? Sure.
Hamas was funded by Israel to some extent. It's not a controversial statement. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's an established fact by the current prime minister. Took money, gave it to Hamas. I meant what I said, which is they are either, I'm not questioning whether they've committed violence. They have. I'm opposed to that. I'm opposed to all violence, period. And I'm opposed to Hamas violence. I'm opposed to killing people. The question is, if you are telling me that they are inspired to kill because of their religious ideology, that is a different thing from people who are inspired to kill by their political ideology. Because if it's political, you can imagine an alliance with Christians. If it is a religious motivation, it is impossible to imagine, as I said in that clip, Christian accomplices. There weren't a lot of Christians supporting al-Qaeda because al-Qaeda was explicitly anti-Christian. So was ISIS. I was calling into question their lack of a coherent explanation for why Christians are being killed in a conflict that, from my perspective, doesn't seem to have anything to do with them. So why are you desecrating churches?
Do you view Hamas as a terrorist organization, as they've been prescribed in many countries, including the US?
I view Hamas killing people, especially civilians, as horrifying, immoral, and wrong. And if you think you're going to get me into some semantic game about who's a terrorist and who's not a terrorist, killing people who committed no crime is wrong. Period.
I'm trying to work out. Do you actually think then that Hamas are terrorists or not?
I think any organization that kills the innocent, including Hamas, is a terror organization.
Got it. Okay.
Anybody who murders people who committed no crime is committing terrorism.
Does that include?
And if someone else can think,
does that include? Okay, so does that include Israel?
It includes anybody.
Does that include Israel?
It includes anybody. No, but anybody. But by the way, let me just say, it's so funny. Does that include Israel? It includes people I know personally in the United States.
And this is where everything reaches a boiling point. Piers Morgan has been trying to corner Tucker Carlson this entire conversation. And right here, he throws everything at him at once. The apology trap, the Hamas label, the terrorist question, one after another. But watch what Tucker Carlson does. He doesn't panic. He doesn't dodge. Instead, Tucker Carlson redirects the whole conversation to a question that Piers Morgan cannot answer. Why are Christians being targeted in a conflict funded by American citizens? That is the question the mainstream media has been avoiding for years. And when Piers Morgan finally thinks he has Tucker trapped with the terrorist definition, Tucker Carlson turns it around and applies that exact same standard to everybody equally. No exceptions, no favorites. That is the moment Piers Morgan completely loses control of this interview. What you just watched is not just a debate. It is the complete collapse of the one-sided narrative that has dominated Western media for decades. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Tucker Carlson won this exchange against Piers Morgan, or did Piers make valid points that Tucker refused to address? Drop your answer in the comments below. See you in the next one.